before we get started on implementation, there is one singularity to the inheritance rule. Remember we said you can only inherit from one class. However, every object directly inherits from this class called object. As an example, I'm going to just create a quick class here. Let's say, I don't know, let's say derived class. We're going to fix it later. And for now, maybe it has some functionality. We're just going to put one functionality, just that it does something, talk, as an example. And now, when we create this object derived, let's say A, and we create it, right? You'll notice that when I type in A and I press the dot to get the IntelliSense, it's actually going to give me more than just that talk method that we see there. You're actually seeing a lot of other methods such as toString, notify, getClass, equals, and all of this. This is inheritance at play. Basically, all these methods are inherited by the object class that we've seen earlier. The object class is everything. This is the base of everything. So if we go highest to the root, the first ancestor type of thing, if we talk about person, the first ancestor, that was object. So by default, everything that you create in Java will be inheriting from object, right? If we hold down Control and click on object, you'll notice that there's a lot to see here. Let's make it a bit easier to see. I'm going to go in structure. So you'll notice that all of these methods that you see here are being inherited downwards to any object that ever gets created. So as an example, you could see here the toString, the weight, and etc. And this is really useful. This is the reason we could go ahead and do something like this, saying system.out, and we say class A, right? Here, I'm giving it an object. This is polymorphism. We'll talk about it way further. But right now, we could give it this A because by default, it inherits this toString, which converts our object to a string for it to be printed out. So what does it print in here? Let's just check that out quickly. You'll notice it says get the class name, add a symbol at, and integer to hex string, right? This is the wrapper class, the helper class. Convert it to a hex string, this hash code. I'm going to talk about this way in the future. So if we print this right now, look what happens. So let's go back here for a second. Get the class name, get the name, basics, derived class, at, and over here we got this hex or hash code, right? And again, before we were saying this was our address, it's still good enough. We stay by that word for now. But you could see that this action is being done to our derived class, even though we don't define that in here. So this is inheritance. And again, remember that everything always inherits from object. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that's something we're going to come back to, and eventually we're going to modify our object and so forth, so on. But we got to remember that everything, even this superclass over here, it is inheriting from object, which is really powerful. And this allows us to do things without defining stuff, right? Sorry, that's not the correct word. Object allows us to do a lot of functionalities that all classes or most classes require. And this is why we inherit from it. And hopefully we'll talk about it more in the future. See you in the next video.